I'm not lying, sir. I'm sorry. I will have to demand a written apology from Shri Jairam Ramesh for accusing me of lying, which I never do. And whether it is parliamentary or unparliamentary, first of all, sir, the chair, I trust you will take care of that. But accusing me of lying is now very clear, runs in the Congress blood. Somebody had to go to the court to say sorry. When I was the defense minister, not only did they call Prime Minister Modi as a chore, but they kept calling me that I'm lying. And who had to go and apologize in the court? And now I wouldn't mind seeing another member going and apologizing in the court, although the word said in the parliament is never taken to the court. In Kerala, voiced severe concerns. Okay, sir, left front opposes, UDF opposes, Congress is part of the UDF, but no, they will never say that. One Gujarat is what they want to say. And I'll tell you why Gujarat had to oppose also. So, they could not bring the GST amendment. When we bring it, this is how they would like to shout about it. But I'm sorry. I'm not lying, sir. I'm sorry. I will have to demand a written apology from Shri Jairam Ramesh for accusing me of lying, which I never do. And whether it is parliamentary or unparliamentary, first of all, sir, the chair, I trust you will take care of that. But accusing me of lying is now very clear, runs in the Congress blood. Somebody had to go to the court to say sorry. When I was the defense minister, not only did they call Prime Minister Modi as a chore, but they kept calling me that I'm lying. And who had to go and apologize in the court? And now I wouldn't mind seeing another member going and apologizing in the court, although the word said in the parliament is never taken to the court. Sir, all MPs in the House, when the GST was brought in, and this is also something which the Congress will have to gulp if they can. All MPs present in the House, including those of the Congress, had voted for the GST constitutional amendment which was brought in by Prime Minister Modi. In fact, I wouldn't mind if Jairam Ramesh once again calls me that I'm lying, but records of the parliament will say it. Jairam Ramesh wanted to move some amendments, but Dr. Manmohan Singh personally asked him not to do so because of the fine consensus that has been arrived in the GST Council.
Yes.
Sir, I don't lie, records don't lie. Don't jump in a hurry to accuse me that I'm lying. Sir? I will authenticate it. But you authenticate that I'm lying, please.
Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister, it's a fair comment by Jairam Ramesh. You need to authenticate it.
Yes, yes.
And during the course of the day, when I watched the Lok Sabha debates, I frequently came across, please authenticate. It is started in this house. Honorable Minister.
Thank you, sir. I will authenticate. And despite the support given by the Congress in passing the amendment, GST constitutional amendment, you have the Congress leader, again not taking name, goes about calling the GST a Gabbar Singh tax. Sir, and therefore, about amendments, I have said some words. Now I just want to highlight...
Minister, but if some Gabbar Singh comes and files a suit then?
Sir?
If some Gabbar Singh in the country comes forward,
oh yes,
that I have been defamed there.
That's right, sir. And the problem, sir, when GST matters come, I will sometime again speak as much as I've done it earlier. Congress ministers are sitting and arguing about rates, sir, that they will not know. The GST Council, Congress finance ministers are also sitting and talking about it. So we are marking the Constitution 75th year. I want to just remind again something very, very quickly, sir. When 75 years of Indian independence was marked in 2022, Prime Minister Modi had celebrated it in the name of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. Throughout the country, every state government participated. Every state government also picked all the freedom fighters, known, unknown, all of them were celebrated, and there was a lot of discussion all over the country. And recently, sir, Prime Minister also spoke about the 11 oaths that we need to take in the Lok Sabha when he spoke. And in 2022, from the Red Fort, he had announced how Panch Pran, meaning we need to get out of that Gulami Mansikta. We have to get over that and look forward to building this country and taking it forward and so on. But 75 years of Indian independence, Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, 75 years of the Constitution, we are having these wonderful debates in the two houses. Every 25 or 50 years are celebrated, sir. I'd like to remind as to what was the celebration when in 25 years of Indian independence, what did we do? So I'm contrasting this. When the completion of the 25 years happened in 1973, sir, when in 1973, how was it celebrated, sir, 25 years of independence? There was a time capsule. A time capsule was interned, a Kal Patra was interned in the Red Fort. And at that time, the people were told, this time capsule will be seen only after 5,000 years. And in that time capsule, the journey of India, free India, was all being written, and actually, it was kept as a top secret. Nobody knew anything as to what was inside the time capsule. A professor of history was employed to write this India since 1947, marking the 25th anniversary. But it was kept a secret. Sir, questions were asked in the parliament. What exactly is in the time capsule marking 25 years of India's independence? What actually went into that interned? It was a steel and copper made vacuum filled case into which the document was interned, and then it was put into the Red Fort. That one, sir, was kept a secret. When asked in the parliament, the then education minister apparently said, and I'm reading from the book published by an eminent parliamentarian, Ira Sejian. He puts in his book as to what was the reply given by the education minister then. And I quote, before that, the education minister expressed his inability to disclose the said document. What's the document which is in it? No, I can't disclose. And what did he say? I quote, within the limitations of its compass, it was designed to preserve an authentic record of our time for posterity. Having regard to this concept, the question of contemporaneous publications or laying the text of the document on the table of the House does not arise, unquote. The education minister, while he put the time capsule to be preserved for 5,000 years, does not allow the parliament to know what was inside it. That is 1973, 2 years before the emergency was brought. This kind of an operation in stealth happened, marking 25 years of India's independence, and the parliament should not be informed. That was the line the education minister gives. Even worse, sir, I just want to highlight what was said about Sri Atal Bihari Vajpayee in that capsule content. I'd like to say, and I quote from the book, sir, the BJP of Atal Bihari Vajpayee is described as, says the author, and I quote, Jan Sangh People's Party is a militant orthodox Hindu party opposing the concept of secular state, unquote. This is what is being said about Atal Bihari Vajpayee in the capsule, about which they don't say in the House. They didn't say it in the House. Even worse, sir, If that is the record for first 25 years of independent India, which has to be preserved for 5,000 years, look at what has been said. C. Rajagopalachari, there was no reference. There was no reference to C. Rajagopalachari, the first Governor General of this country, to the President of India. Dr. Rajendra Prasad had no mention in that content. Dr. Radhakrishnan, Zakir Hussain, and to the Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri, who though short in physical stature, was tall in political stature, who went all the way to Tashkent as a pilgrim of peace to establish harmony in this part of the world. Don't you think this author, who's a parliamentarian, asks, don't you think that such names deserve to be inscribed in the historical document of our country during the period of the first quarter century of Indian independence, unquote. So that's the level of secrecy about even members of parliament, about eminent leaders of different political parties, and sly comments were all packed up in that. Later, it was all removed. So that is the nature of Congress party, sir. I want to highlight that fact. Sir, the names missed out is something which shocks the country, but that was the level to which the party went in the arrogance with which they were trying to rule. So the constitution and the misuse is what I'm talking about here. Sir, one more thing again on the economic impact of such amendments which they bring in. It's a test for every one of us, whether it is one amendment today or another amendment tomorrow. Does it have an economic intent for the larger economic good, social intent, process, constitutional spirit? Let's see, let's test each one of our acts, the amendments that we bring in, and then decide whether what we are doing is right. Sir, the Soviet model, which the Congress party copied under Prime Minister Nehru, continued with Indira Gandhi, was a model which did not do any good to this country, sir. C. Rajagopalachari, the socialism, that socialism was refashioned as Mahal Nobis model, the central command and control structure, the license, quota, Raj, were all part of this. And in that, C. Rajagopalachari writes, sir, to the Prime Minister. He says, in an open letter, he says, Nehru came to Madras on Tuesday with all the paraphernalia of Prime Minister of India and attempted to, in a speech, talk about Rajagopalachari and his principles. But here, in Swarajya magazine, he publishes it in 1962, February 17, and I quote from that article. I want an India clear of the atmosphere of fear in which it is now enveloped, 62, where honest men engaged in difficult tasks of production or trade can carry on their occupation without fear of ruin at the hands of officials, ministers, and party bosses. He says that, I want an India where talent and energy can find scope for play without having to cringe and obtain special individual permission from officials and ministers, and where their efforts will be judged by the open market of India. And so on. He goes on, sir. I want the corruption of this permit license Raj to go. He says that. So a member who was part of the Congress party himself writes to Pandit Nehru saying this cannot go on, your socialism is ruining this country, the license permit Raj could not continue because you are leading to corruption. Sir, periodically Congress questions, hey, BJP, RSS, Jansangh, what was your role during the freedom movement? We all know it and we've said it, but I want to ask the Congress, what is your role in the Arctic, India's economic freedom? What is India's economic growth? What is your effort in building economic strength of India? No wonder when we in 21 in a budget, if that is not true, sir, why in 1980 onwards the Congress party itself wants to dump license quota Raj, 91 they want to reform, and then take the claim for it saying we are the ones we reformed. You didn't have to reform if it was so good. It was damaging the Indian economy, and socialism was therefore brought into the Constitution's preamble through the 42nd Act, Amendment Act, only to prove that they are doing right thing. Although that was not needed at all, because the directive principle of state policy has enough and more. And that is where I want to bring this one particular important observation, sir. The Nehru Development Model, written by Arvind Panagaria. Latest book. This will tell you, sir, from an academic perspective also, how the socialism, the control Raj, the license quota Raj of the Congress's 50 years of rule ruined our economy. Though the country did come to terms with its mistake and changed course in 1991, by then it had lost 4 precious decades. Moreover, the history built over these decades continued to haunt its development efforts even after the change of course. For one thing, the base income remained low. Given that the opportunity to grow rapidly had been missed in early decades. Therefore, even an acceleration in growth to 7 to 8% range on a sustained basis could not deliver genuine prosperity for another few decades. Moreover, 4 decades of patronage of socialist ideas and policies came to hardwire Indian politicians, bureaucrats, intellectuals, and even business people in ways that made a swift march to a market economy politically challenging. That's the reality of the policy of the Congress party, which they themselves came, we've reformed the country. They baggaged the country in 50 years, and later they wanted to claim that they are reforming and bringing prosperity to this country, which is not true. So therefore, sir, when Prime Minister Modi gives a call that first of all, sir, with all this socialism, 42nd Amendment to changing the preamble, the much promised Garibi Hatao has not delivered by them. If it's not been delivered by them, what did that socialism do to us? So when Prime Minister Modi says Vikasit Bharat 2047, we all should have to work together to make sure that that is done with all of our responsibilities intact, and such changes to the Constitution which they brought, which has only brought in decay for the Indian economy. I will not get into the details. Another paper from 2009, sir. Cato Institute Center for Global Liberty and Prosperity.
What are we discussing?
Yeah, we are discussing the Constitution and the mistakes done by the Congress party, as a result of which the Indian economy is suffering, sir. Socialism kills. The human cost of delayed economic reform in India, sir. I'll authenticate this and give it to you to show how Congress party's attempts have only weakened the Indian economy. Sir, we changed that by clearly saying that the budget will now very clearly focus on the Indian economy, and as a result of which we will see a lot of economic growth. I'm not getting into the detail of the budget speech 2021, sir, paragraph 86. Those interested can see the thing. Sir, I'll come to this point about the Constituent Assembly, financial inclusion, economic justice. That is why I argued first, saying this declaration in the preamble, bringing socialism, was not warranted at all. There's enough and more said in the directive principle of states policy. Directive principle of state policy is adequate for us to do all the social, economic, justice related activity. But no, the Congress party was doing it for their political agenda rather than for the larger good. Sir, I like to say, sir, Ambedkar, sir, Dr. Ambedkar says, on 19th November 1948. Our objective in framing the Constitution is really twofold. Ambedkar says, sir, to lay down the form of political democracy, to lay down that our ideal is economic democracy, and also to prescribe that every government, whatever is in power, shall strive to bring about economic democracy. And a very clear, the directive principle, Dr. Ambedkar says this, the directive principles have a great value, for they lay down that our ideal is economic democracy, unquote. And this is exactly what Prime Minister Modi is doing. 54 crore citizens who once had no means are now being given extraordinary connection to banking. The Jan Dhan Yojana, principles guiding our democracy, equity, justice and opportunity. 50 crore mudra loans, 50 crore mudra loan accounts have created the pathway for micro entrepreneurs, street vendors and so on. Sir, Article 38 of the directive principle says, the state shall strive to promote the welfare of the people by securing and protecting social order, by ensuring socio-economic political justice, and by minimizing inequalities in income, status, facilities, and opportunities. Article 39 also says very similar about adequate means of livelihood and ownership control. Article 46 about scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. So I just want to highlight how, because of the specific actions taken by our government, you find 1969, I go back, sir, for a minute. Mrs. Indira Gandhi on the bank nationalization said, the political situation in our country demands, quote, that banking facilities should be extended in an increasing measure to backward areas, to agriculture, to small-scale industry, and so on. And perhaps banking operations should be informed by a larger social purpose, unquote. But in spite of introducing socialism into the preamble, they did not achieve any of what Mrs. Indira Gandhi justified for bringing nationalization of the banks. They paid only lip service, sir. By 2011, census data reveals that less than 60% of Indian households had access to banking service. Bank accounts, sir, zero balance accounts were only 10.3 crores. By contrast, sir, 54 crore Jan Dhan accounts have been opened since 2014. 56% of the accounts belong to women. Similarly, pensions, insurance and so on, sir. PM Mudra, 50 crore sanctioned accounts, 68% are women. Stand Up India, 1 crore SC/ST women borrowers, 30,000 crore has been distributed, 2.5 lakh people, of whom 76% of women are benefiting. PM Swanidhi, sir, 50,000 rupees loan is given to 67 lakh street vendors, of whom 45% are women, 42% are OBCs, and so on. Sir, we repeatedly in Lok Sabha and here spoke about how former Prime Minister said, if I send 1 rupee down, only 15 paisa reaches. By bringing in technology and using DBT, Prime Minister Modi made sure that accounts will receive, the beneficiaries will receive their money directly into their account. 1 rupee means 1 rupee will reach them, and this has helped save 3.48 lakh crores of taxpayers' money. These are very important to say that directive principle of state policy, which has even more things for all of us to do, can bring in poverty alleviation, but not the Nara Garibi Hatao, which delivered nothing on poverty. So lastly, I'll pay my respects to the women who were part of the constitution makers. As I said, 15 out of 385 members were women. I would think you will indulge me when I read the names of these 50 women. Ammu Swaminathan, Annie Mascarenes, Dakshayani Velayudan, Begum Aizaz Razul, Durgabai Deshmukh, Hansa Jivraj Mehta, Kamla Chaudhary, Leela Roy, Malti Chaudhary, Purnima Banerjee, Rajkumari Amrit Kaur, Renuka Ray, Sarojini Naidu, Sucheta Kriplani, and Vijayalakshmi Pandit were the prominent women who were part of the Constituent Assembly, sir. The contribution of these women in the constitution making is immense. I know after that, Pandit Vijayalakshmi Pandit scaled heights in diplomacy. Rajkumari Amit Kaur became the first woman to be a Union Cabinet Minister. Durgabai Deshmukh was the founding member of the Planning Commission. Annie Mascarenhas and Renuka Ray served as ministers in their respective state governments. Sarojini Naidu and Sucheta Kriplani went on to become first female governor and chief minister respectively. So I also appreciate the immense role played by the All India Women's Congress, who have done extremely good work, Women's Conference, All India Women's Conference. And these women were all celebrated during Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, which we celebrated from 2022. The last observation I'd like to make, sir, it is very interesting that in this House, the first act that we passed is the reservation for women, which was the new act passed in the new parliament. I'd like to reiterate that Bharatiya Janata Party, my party, has always been committed for women and women's participation in politics. Even as early as 1994, in Vadodara National Convention, the BJP very clearly passed that seats must be reserved for women in both parliament and state assemblies. In 1994, sir. Then in 1998, BJP reiterated its commitment for women reservation by introducing it in the Lok Sabha. July 2003, BJP in its national executive in Raipur also passed a resolution to give reservation. 2007, BJP National Executive approved 33% reservation for women. 2008 again, BJP amended its constitution so that its own office bearers will have 33% reservation for women, and I'm glad to say that I'm one of the beneficiaries of that reservation. And BJP has consistently supported women's reservation. In Rajya Sabha 2010, sir, I remember late Shri Arun Jaitley supported passionately to pass that, and in Rajya Sabha it was passed. But curiously, why that didn't go to the Lok Sabha, no one knows. And in the Lok Sabha, I think it was for reasons better known, but what was said in the public was some of the alliance partners were not favoring, and therefore the Indian National Congress did not have the courage to take it into the Lok Sabha at that time. BJP's Sankalp Patra of 2014 supported women's reservation. And again, Sankalp Patra before the 2019 election also very clearly supported. But I want to highlight the fact, sir, that in 84-89, Shri Rajiv Gandhi had 426 members in the Lok Sabha and 159 members in the Rajya Sabha. They did not have the conviction to pass the women's reservation bill at that time. Very clearly, they have been anti-women always. Shahbanu case is a very clear example. Sir, I would highlight the fact that although the credit is being taken for the Panchayat Reservation Act by Shri Rahul Gandhi and the dynasty, it was not him. It was P.V. Narasimha Rao who brought it and passed it on. But even then, it was only a lip service because no financial powers were given. Now, Honorable H.D. Deve Gowda ji, who former Prime Minister, is not here, but in 1996, there was during his time, the reservation bill was brought in. Nothing was supported by Congress at that time. Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji in 98, in 99, in 2002, 2003 brought it. No, the Congress wouldn't support. But the Congress's memory is very weak that they didn't support any of the bill all the time, whether it was Deve Gowda ji or whether it was Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji. And then in 2008, even Dr. Manmohan Singh faltered. They managed to pass it in Rajya Sabha, which I said a minute ago, but did not go to the Lok Sabha for fear of their alliance partners threatening to walk out of the alliance, and they didn't want to lose power, but they wanted to save their kursi only, and therefore did not do justice to the women. Whereas Prime Minister Modi and BJP from the beginning stood by women, made the first change in the party and brought the reservation bill here. And therefore, if anybody is committed to the constitution, it is BJP, Prime Minister Modi and this government. And therefore, people who are walking with the book in their hand, constitution, sometimes not knowing that inside there are Kora Kagas, nothing printed. They're not even opening it to see whether it is there. But they're walking around with this book, should know that they are the ones who repeatedly have failed the cause of the constitution of India. Thank you very much.